Alright, I have to take a second whack at this video. Unfortunately, response video to Fred, who I will start off by apologizing to because my last video, can't remember what it was called, but something. Anyway, I sort of directed it at you, but it wasn't directed at you. I was just frustrated because people who I think get this thing should be able to just say, yeah, life is stupid. And they just don't do it. They just don't say it as plainly as it should be said. 4 billion years of a replicating molecule. What do we have to show for it? That's right, Dancing with the Stars. I mean, it's just bullshit. But anyway, the point of this video is to start a conversation. I'm going to eventually critique, all of the comments made on the Magic Sandwich show. You really don't have a chance to give a full argument. They cut you off all over the place. And there was a ton of premises they stated that I never got a chance to counter-argue. And so I'll go through all that when the videos are put up on their website. Because they should be of better quality, one assumes. Anyway, the whole idea, they kicked me out of the room. They'd let Karina talk about it. And I love Karina. I mean, Karina's like, it's like a sister or something. I hate to make her that, but, she shows up to defend me, fights the bullies for me and stuff. It's really very nice. But, she says, she's anti-natalist, but she thinks it's totally impractical and can never happen. And I just, this argument is so, again, it's wrong. And then Fred making the right argument, but he's sort of making it in the wrong way again. So I'll play part of this. Because people just, this isn't that complicated to well, I'll get to it, but it really isn't. And even people in the comment section are saying somehow Thunderfoot was trying to say something else. No, Thunderfoot later in the video says, I'm going to go extinct. Which is a stupid thing to say. Every individual human goes extinct. All you can leave behind is something that has your color eyes. Alright? Even if I had kids, none of them are going to be in Mendham, you stupid fucktards. In Mendham will go extinct. Idiots.
Reasons why there are no celibate cults anymore is because celibate cults naturally die out because they don't produce any offspring, so they die out. And
even if they produced offspring, they would die out. Alright? Because no one wants to be in a celibate cult. It's only a cult that's going to work for people that are completely broken. It's just a stupid cult. That's why they die out, is because they're stupid. It's like the UFO cult that they all committed suicide, because that was how you're going to get your soul into the UFO. And it's a stupid idea. It wouldn't matter whether it had 17,000 kids. All the kids would say, God, Dad, you're so full of shit. I'm getting out of town. There's all kinds of civilizations right now that are barely hanging on because most of the young run like hell. As soon as they got a chance to get the fuck out of town, they get the fuck out of town. Because it's a dumb way to live. This whole idea that there's any connection between our memes, our understanding, the thing that we become, and our genetics is just stupid. The only connection is between indoctrination. So it's not like Christians breed Christians. They raise kids in a stifled environment. They brainwash them. They basically pervert their capacity to function. They turn them into superstitious lunatics. You could raise a kid to be a neurotic asshole. You can do it. And Christians raise their children to be so fucked up that they think Jeebus is behind every tree, and they're afraid to step on a crack in the sidewalk kind of thing. They're completely dysfunctional as thinkers. And that's all they are. And the only way the Muslims survive is because they basically kill you if you disagree. They create huge penalties for anybody who goes outside of the social norms. And so we can see how that manipulates people. We know what brainwashing is, and we know that indoctrination is, and we know you can do this to children. You can fuck them up. And that's what these people do. They fuck them up. And rational civilizations don't apply those standards. They let their kids navigate the internet. They expose them to alternative ideas. And their children will have to pick a meme, and those memes will compete with each other. So now the argument is that somehow I'm not procreating. Now, what part of me am I attempting to procreate? Do I care whether my blue eyes procreate? Do I care whether my blonde hair procreates? Do I care with my magnificent well, we won't go about it. Do I care whether that procreates? No, we don't care. Eminem does not care. He is not interested. What is the only thing of value to him? Oh, yes, the ideas. Now, let's look at it, my idea procreation. Let's look how successful I have been at procreating ideas. Have I created people who now are similarly memed? Do they now function as I do in terms of how they behave towards animals and they don't eat them anymore or something else? And have I procreated the idea that, yes, life is just this thing we're caught up in, and we're just full of all these passions, but they're all made out of crap. It's all subjective nonsense. We could love anything. We could perceive anything as beautiful. Anything could give us an orgasm. And it's all a matter of conditioning, that what we desire, what kind of food we find satisfying is arbitrary. It hasn't been methodically and rationally decided what you will find to derive pleasure from, that we could construct human beings that derive pleasure from seeing things resolved and calm and peaceful, not reckless, idiotic, joy juice chasers like Aaron Ra, this fucking fat fucktard who wants to drop from space. He wants to free fall from space. Why don't we make amusement parks for these assholes just to test how much they love life? And we can put the, Auschwitz ride, and we can have the chemotherapy ride, and, and let's just see if they love life no matter how bad it is. They know, a day in Auschwitz is better than a day asleep in bed. That's how these fuckers think. This is how they talk, anyway. And they always talk from the position where they haven't gone through any of this shit. These people talk like they've already died. They know what death is. They know what dying is. They know what cancer is. They know what all this shit is, and they've never done it. Amazing bullshit. But anyway, so let's just value. So foot. Here you are, PhD, and you really don't understand the difference between memes, evolving ideas being transferred from one person to another, essentially replicating, and your genetics replicating. You don't understand how all philosophies in a real civilization would have absolutely nothing to do with birth. That Republicans will give birth to Democrats. That Democrats will give birth to Republicans. That's the way it works. Jerk. That ideas compete with each other. And the ones that have to come up to some sort of logical muster, one would hope, are the ones that win. The model of reality that isn't convenient to the individual but is true should win. Can you at least say that? And that yes, there is this dominance where the mundane, the common denominator, the lowest denominator has a tendency to have advantage. Do you think that's a good advantage? Do you think our civilization should stay stupid? It should keep doing things recklessly and senselessly because that's the easier strategy? That's the one easier to infect minds with? Yeah. I don't think you believe that. I don't think you do. So you don't want the best survival strategy for individuals to win. You don't want the best survival strategy for even successful colonies to exist. You want them to be civilizations, and civilization is a different standard, isn't it? That's right, it is. It requires compromises on both those advantages. Okay, long-term survivability, hardiness, all these functions are all functions of stupidity. Hardiness is a function of stupidity. The stupider you are, the hardier you are. The more capable, durable you're likely to be. It's only through intelligence you become more sensitive. You become more incapable of doing what has to be done and doing it in a more civilized manner. Not so expedient, but more graceful and dignified and decent. These are things that happen when you have intelligence, when you apply a restriction, not when you liberate. Fuckwit. So anyway, again, so let's just argue from procreativity. All right, I have procreated. I have successfully replicated my idea in the world, my thoughts in the world. They have taken hold in new vessels. And those vessels, if they do the same thing mine did, which is at least leave 2 behind for every one that dies, are doing the Adam and Eve thing. They're successfully propagating in the world. All right, so my ideas don't go extinct because I go extinct. My thoughts don't go extinct. We still talk about authors like Schopenhauer and others. They don't die. Their ideas live. And you're stupid, and you're an idiot, and you're obnoxious, and you're petty, and you're hard to understand most of the time. Anyway, I really want to get on that subject. So anyway, Fred is sort of making that point, but he's making it in sort of, like I said, I'd say there was a little error code in how you made the argument, in the sense that there are no real examples of something failing. I mean, the failure has to be understood for what it failed for. Okay, the celibacy cults, the non-procreation cults, failed because they were stupid cults, because they had a lousy lifestyle, because it was a rotten commune. Okay, I mean, I could set up a commune, get 100 people together, we could all be really enthusiastic because we have some kind of dream that it's going to work. Okay, but we just don't make it work. We don't live up to the dream, and then the next round of people can judge it by what it's doing rather than what it's saying. You know, the hope can no longer be the game you're playing. Now you have to play with results. And the results, people look at the results and say, I don't want to really be one of those. That's silly. So anyway, yeah, anything else to say? I mean, we know like Mormonism, you know, has survived. Why? Well, because the pedophiles love it. Anyway, and and the wife beaters. You know, what else is there to say though? But the ideal is that you give the ideas a fair atmosphere to fight in. And I'm going to argue that this is the idea, this is the future. Intelligence will have nowhere to go but realizing that we are just animals at heart, and we're just been totally duped by biology. It makes us need things that are stupid to need. It makes us compromise reason to get what we need in silly and obnoxious proportions. We will enslave each other for, to save a couple of dollars. We are... and that's the function of these beasts, and it's all a canard that there's something else going on here. It's a replicating DNA molecule. We're basically animals, and intelligence has nothing. There's no real purpose for intelligence but to clean up the mess made by this replicating DNA molecule. And the best way to clean up the mess is just to stop the mess machine, because there is nothing else the mess machine can do except create messes, to create needs that don't need to exist. All the needs of the Plutonians are not, there's no weeping, there's no crying. I'm not even weeping. We could theoretically make 1 million subtly different versions of me. Slightly different hair color, slightly different color eyes, slightly different whatever, blah, blah, blah. Right? But no one's missing them. No one's arguing that, the whole universe is deprived because they aren't sitting in a lounge chair somewhere watching a sunset. I mean, it's just idiotic. So let's quit pretending there needs to be more. There doesn't need to be more. It's just a notion in people's heads that that's the way it should be, because that's what the system says, and that's what tradition says, and that's the way it should be. Don't step on the crack, don't step on the cracks, don't step on the crack. That's all they're doing. It's just superstition, yelling and screaming. That's all it is. It's superstition setting the agenda. The world is being run by superstitious assholes. And some of the superstitious assholes are sitting there pointing their finger at the other superstitious assholes and calling them asshole. And that part is stupid. Alright? So if you want to be an A-bullshitist, that's what people should be, is an A-bullshitist. Because most of these atheists are full of bullshit. They're living for bullshit. They're talking bullshit. And I'm going to prove it. Logically. Yeah, so that's enough. I'll play a little more Fred video.
I guess he was suggesting the same thing, that there's no point in whacking on about antinatalism, because not only is it a daft idea, and he did seem particularly dismissive about that, but also that it carries the seeds of its own demise, because it isn't an idea that reproduces itself in the next generation.
Yeah, well, see, that's the joke, right? Because I have reproduced the idea. There is every evidence that the idea will reproduce. So, wrong. Yeah, I've successfully replicated. I have children in the world. I do. My memes are out there. I've taken a piece of my code. Alright, it's not genetic, but it's code. And it's in those people. It's in them now. I've forced it through this little fucking hole, and it's gone into their hole.
That's a terrible argument. Terrible argument. I mean, that's equivalent, isn't it, to saying that there's no point in arguing for atheism because, you know, religious people have an evolutionary advantage. And apparently they do. You know, it's from all the evidence seems to suggest that. There's never been a society that doesn't have a religious faith in it. There's good evidence to suggest that children come into the world. Babies aren't it.
Yeah, well, he says here that babies aren't atheists, and I don't believe that. He says there's good evidence. I don't think there's good evidence. No, there's good evidence that people are indoctrinated. I don't think there's any evidence that children innately need a God. If you raise them with no God, they're not going to run to one. No way. I don't buy that. I don't buy there's any good evidence. Sorry. So, yeah. So, like I said, I like your argument, but I don't like what it's made out of. I like where it goes in the end, but I don't like how you got there. The car you drove in is stinky. But anyway, thanks. Such. So yeah, lots more of this to come because there was just so many idiotic counter arguments made, and to make bad arguments when you're dismissing somebody else, that should be a high crime. Even on YouTube, it should be a high crime. And people should see that and say that is fucking bullshit, and they should call bullshit. All right? I mean, if you're going to demean somebody and insult somebody and play games with somebody, DPR Jones, I mean, you know how the real world works, right? DPR Jones, come on, you're a lawyer. You know that you don't go into court and you don't get to say, have your first argument, and then you get to take the other side out of the room and then make another argument to the jury after you kick the other guys out so they can't counter argue and they can't hear what you're saying. They can't make a counter argument. They can't follow it up. They can't do anything. You know that's not how it's played, right? Because you know that's just fundamentally unfair. And that's the game you played. And I call bullshit on that. Big, fat, giant bullshit. Especially when you sat there and fawned all over Karina when she pops into the room 3 minutes later to pick up exactly the same argument. What the fuck? Yeah. That's just such bullshit. Anyway. Yeah, that's enough said. Enough of a video for now. I'll get back to this later, so I'll put this on U-doubled since it's a Fred response video. And I know people don't play along, but that's just the way it's going to be, alright? You've got to migrate you folks off of the old tube. It's evil. It's stupid. Idiotic. It's a bad meme. It needs not to be procreated. You got to make YouTube infertile in the world. Google. Yeah, cut its wiener off. It's bad juju. Bad.